What's going on? Welcome to the video. My name is Jesse, and today what I'm doing is ranking in a tier list my favorite back exercises. So I've got a list here of all different kinds of rows and pull downs and lower back exercises, and the tier list goes from elite at the top, then great, then good, then okay, and then dislike. So I'm gonna sort through all these different back exercises and explain why I like or dislike them. That way you can see which ones you agree with or start to think in your head where you would place each of these exercises. I do wanna say as well that I'm not saying that whatever I say is factually best or is correct even, but I'm literally just going by my own personal preferences and favorites based on my own experience working out for about 12 years now and working in the fitness industry as a personal trainer and online coach for like 10 years. So if you have any thoughts about these exercises, whether you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments. And if you end up liking this style of video, then consider subscribing to my channel because I make new videos just like this every week. So how I'm going to sort through this is I'm gonna go through all the different row variations first, then all the different pull down variations, and then whatever's left. I'm gonna start off with my absolute favorite row variation and rank that at the elite tier, which is a T-bar row. It's my favorite for a few different reasons. The main reason is that it's a chest supported exercise, and if you've ever done a row without a chest support versus with a chest support, you know immediately that you feel it more in your back, it's more isolated, you have more leverage to pull the weight towards you. And a T-bar row is set up just perfectly to be able to row in a comfortable way. And they also usually have multiple handles as options, more of a wide grip option versus more of a neutral grip for a row variation. It's also very easy to get into and to load weights onto the handle area, as opposed to like an alternative, which would be a chest supported dumbbell row done on an incline bench. And so that's the next one I'm gonna select here. And this one is actually a picture of me here. So I'm putting that one tier below the T-bar row. So I'm labeling it as great because I really like the exercise. Like I said, it's a very similar position and setup with a chest support. You're sort of on an incline, the weight is down below you and you're rowing up, towards your body. But the only difference between this and a T-bar row is that it's just more annoying to get into. You've got to grab your heavy weights, you've got to get your body into position on the incline bench on the right part of the pad so that it's comfortable. And then when you're done, you pretty much have to drop the weights down by your feet. So it's a very good exercise, very similar positioning to a T-bar row. It's just a lot harder to get into and out of. The next exercise is a dumbbell single arm row, which I'm going to put in the good category. So one tier below the chest supported row. Like I said, I just very much prefer a chest supported setup when I'm doing my rows. There's nothing bad about, a single arm dumbbell row, whether you do it on a bench or whether you do it just kind of standing up or leaning against something. It's a good exercise, but for me, I don't feel it as much of in an isolated way compared to when I have my chest supported onto a pad or a bench. Next, I'm gonna go with the seated machine row, which I'm gonna put even with the chest supported dumbbell row. So, this might look slightly different based on the style that your gym has, but generally speaking, I'm a big fan of these machines and this exercise because usually they have different handles so that you can do more of a wide grip overhand row for more of the upper back, or you can shift to more of a neutral grip to be a little bit more lat focused. This is typically a chest supported exercise as well. The only difference is you're seated rather than on an incline. So for that reason, it gives you some good leverage when you're pulling. The gym that I have, actually, it's not such a good machine, but the majority of gyms that I go to, I find that it's usually a really good option for rowing and for pulling. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it in the great category, and I'm usually usually going to pick this type of machine over like a single arm dumbbell row, which is why I rated it one notch higher. But if I'm being honest, I probably do like the incline dumbbell row slightly more. If I had to choose between the two, I could go either way on that one. Now let's go with the bent over dumbbell row, which I'm gonna list as good as well. I don't love bent over positions when rowing, just because I've hurt my back in the past. It's sort of a compromised position that I've personally tried to avoid over the last 3 to 4 years of working out. So for that reason, I'm putting both the bent over dumbbell row and the bent over barbell row in the good category. And before people go crazy because the bent over barbell row is seen as like the king of back exercises, right? By no means am I saying that you can't build a bigger back or a stronger back doing barbell rows or doing bent over dumbbell rows. You absolutely can, and they're a fine exercise. And I've done them plenty in the past. But this is just where my personal preference and bias comes in that I don't love being in a bent over position when I'm holding a lot of weight. There's a lot more of stabilizing and holding your balance and tightening your core that is, going into a bent over row position. And that's why I'd much rather just have a chest supported setup so I don't have to worry about getting hurt. I don't have to worry about really stabilizing all my muscles. And I don't have to worry about, if I'm lifting too heavy, and I can just focus on rowing and training my back. So just to reiterate, you definitely can build a bigger back with bent over barbell rows and bent over dumbbell rows. They're just not my preferred setup, and that's why I'm putting them in the good category. I would genuinely prefer to do a seated machine row or to do a chest supported dumbbell row, certainly a T-bar row ahead of those things. And the last row variation we have here is a cable row, which I very much like. So I'm gonna put the cable row in the great category. So I have, as far as rowing goes, the T-bar in the elite category. That's my favorite variation. And then one category below that, I have the incline dumbbell chest supported row, along with a seated machine row and a cable row. The cable row, I like that there's so many different variations you can do. I like doing one arm at a time, probably more than I actually like using both arms at the same time, but both are good. I like that it's done on a cable and that there's that constant tension there, as compared to like a single arm dumbbell row where you're just simply working against gravity and there's not really any resistance on the way down. And I like that you can adjust the attachments and the handles to be more preferred for what you're looking for. Like I said, you could do like a D handle, which is one handle, and just do one arm at a time, or you could do 2 D handles and do both arms together, or you could do more of like a lat pull down bar for like a wider grip, or you could do like a supinated grip where your palms are facing up and it's more of like a reverse grip. There's just unlimited options here, and that's one of the reasons why I like it so much. So let's move on to the pull down variations. So the first one we've got is the good old-fashioned lat pull down, which I'm going to put in the elite category. Again, one of the kings of back training, to hit that upper part of the back, the upper back, or based on the grip and the handle that you're using, you can get more of the lats as well. Generally you're gonna hit a little bit of both. This is probably my favorite because most lat pull down machine setups, you're gonna have some sort of pad over your thighs, so you're really locked into place, and you have that leverage and you're pulling against that seated position. And it is versatile in that you can use different types of attachments for more of a wider grip or a neutral grip or a reverse grip or an overhand grip. I'm also going to put in the elite tier pull-ups. All right, the pull-up is one of the oldest exercises, obviously, and that's for a reason. It is one of the most effective, one of the hardest exercises to do. I'd probably say that the vast majority of people on earth can't do one pull-up. And the reason I like it so much is because, again, this one is very versatile. You can adjust your hand positioning to be wider or more shoulder width or more of a neutral grip pull-up, or you can change it to a weighted pull-up, which is one of the most incredibly hard and effective exercises for your back you can do. And to be fair, what I've got here as well is an assisted pull-up machine, which I'm gonna put in the elite tier as well, because it's really the same thing. You know, this is where you sort of kneel or stand on that pad and you select a weight to basically help you out to add some weight back, so that if you're not able to do a normal pull-up just yet with your body weight, this will give you some extra assistance. And it's the same exact movement, right? The same exact exercise. The only difference is that it's more of a modified regression, so that those people who aren't able to get their first normal pull-up yet can still do the exercise. And for that reason, I think this would be, you know, in the elite tier as well. Again, if you're someone who can do plenty of pull-ups, you probably won't be doing this one, but it's either or, right? It's either the normal pull-ups or the assisted pull-ups. Both are great. Now, interestingly enough, the chin-up is one that I don't love. I'm gonna put this one, believe it or not, all the way down in the good category. And that's not because it's not effective or it's not as good as a normal pull-up or an overhand grip pull-up or anything like that. It's simply because this reverse grip pull-up, in my experience, is so much more stressful on the wrists and the hands that I just never even want to do it. Obviously, that stress and resistance on the wrists is going to be a little bit better if you bring your hands closer together. But overall, because of this, I don't love doing chin-ups, and I'd rather, if I'm going to do a reverse grip like that, I'd rather just grab a attachment that I can hold my hands like this, where my palms are facing me, on a lat pull down machine, and do it more comfortably like that, compared to trying to do a chin up on a straight bar. Now going over to the TRX row, this probably should have been included in the row section, but I'm gonna put this in the, let's see, it's either good or great. I'm gonna put it in the great category, because if you're someone who works out at home and you don't have access to a lot of equipment, this is a great exercise, right? This is probably your absolute best way to hit some rows, and it's versatile in that you can do more of a wide grip row to hit that upper back, or you can do more of a neutral grip row to hit a little bit more of the lats. You can also adjust the level of difficulty of this row to be harder or easier based on how steep your body is. So if you want it to be easier, you can stand more upright and there's less resistance when doing the row. So if you're more of a beginner, you can do that. Or if you're more advanced, you can allow your body to be closer to parallel to the floor and the ceiling, so that you have to work harder against gravity to perform your row, and that's gonna make it harder. And I also like that you can do this anywhere. You can bring your TRX to a hotel or outside, or do it at home or at the gym. There's really no limit to that. I'm also going to put the inverted row in the great category as well. If you haven't tried these, man, they are incredibly hard. It looks like a sort of a modified version of a pull-up, but I'm telling you, it is incredibly hard. This is usually done either on a Smith machine or in like a squat rack, where you're pulling up against the bar. And this is similar to the TRX row in that you can modify your positioning and how your legs are and how your body is positioned to be a little bit harder or a little bit easier. So in this picture, the guy has his legs fully extended out in front of him, and that's gonna make it harder to perform the inverted row, where you're pulling up against gravity. Or if he was to bend his legs, so that his knees and his legs are more of a 90-degree angle, you know, resting on the floor, then that would make it a little bit easier. So I like that in this exercise, that you can modify it based on your fitness level. And again, if you haven't tried this, go ahead, throw this at the end of one of your back workouts and see how challenging this is. I don't care if you are an advanced lifter, a bodybuilder, a power lifter. Doing 15 to 20 reps of inverted rows is very, very challenging, even if you're advanced. Now we're moving to another pull down variation, which is this kneeling cable pull down, which would be like an alternative to a lat pull down if maybe you didn't have a lat pull down machine. This is the one ranked lowest on the list so far for me. I put it in the okay category. I don't dislike it. I don't think it's bad. It's just, in my opinion, not nearly as good, not nearly as effective, doesn't feel as good as some of these other pull down options, like a lat pull down, like a pull up, like an assisted pull up, or even like an inverted row. Now, if you're at a gym and you have access to cables as well as other equipment, you'd be better off, in my opinion, just going with a normal lat pull down. If for some reason you only have cables available, then of course do this variation of a lat pull down where you're kneeling down. It's just not nearly as effective in my opinion, because you're not locked into position like you would be in a seated lat pull down machine, where you've got those pads over your legs and you can really use that leverage to pull against the pads. But you're sort of just sitting there or kneeling there right there on the ground, and it's possible you might be able to pull down more weight than you actually weigh, so it might be easier than is necessary. So that's why I don't love this one. But a version that is similar that I like a little bit better is this single arm kneeling lat pull down, which I'm gonna put in the good category. I've done this multiple times. It's been in my program multiple times. I like it definitely a lot better doing it single arm, one at a time, because you can really focus on squeezing that lat when you pull down. You have a little bit more leverage because you're more in a half kneeling position where you really have one foot to kind of push against the ground, whereas like the other variation where both knees are on the ground, it doesn't feel as stable. Now we're moving on to a straight bar press down or a straight bar pull down for the back, which I actually really like. I'm gonna put this in the good category. This is one that is very hit or miss that I've heard throughout the industry for people. It's one that I like, and I actually feel pretty directly in my lats and in my back when I'm doing those press downs. It almost, in a way, to the untrained eye, looks like a tricep press down, only you're not bending at the elbows. You're keeping a straight arm, and it's usually done with more of a straight bar, or even some people do it with a rope as well. But this is one that I really like, and I really feel the stretch in my back and in my lats when I'm doing this one. So it's not one that I would put as a main exercise in a back or a pull workout, but that I do like having in there decently frequently. 2 exercises left. We've got a conventional deadlift and a Roman chair hyperextension, lower back, hyperextension. So I'm going to put the hyperextension in the great category, because I find that this is a really good exercise for hitting that lower part of the back in an isolated way. It's pretty low intensity, low impact. Most people are gonna be able to do this one. And you can also adjust your positioning and adjust how you're executing it to be more focused on the lower back, or to be more focused on like the glutes and the hamstrings. So this is one that I actually do like very much. Now for the deadlift here, the traditional or conventional deadlift, people are gonna roast me in the comments possibly, but I don't love it for the back. I'm gonna put it as good, because of course you're going to hit the back to some degree when doing a deadlift, but in my opinion and in my experience, more conventional, traditional deadlifts with a barbell are more of a lower body exercise where you're really pushing against the ground, you're really working your quads and your glutes, and I see it more of a lower body focused day. Of course, you are gonna hit some of the back, some of the lower back, and even some of the lats with, with your grip and holding the barbell, of course. But in my opinion, if like your main goal is to build a bigger, stronger back, there are some of these other more isolated, more targeted exercises that I think are actually gonna be more helpful for doing that. I'm not telling you not to deadlift. I'm just telling you that when it comes specifically to training the back, a deadlift is a very compound lift where you're gonna be hitting multiple muscle groups. And that's the only reason why I'm not putting it up in the elite tier and I'm putting it more in the middle. Anyway, I'd love to hear how you would rate some of these exercises in your own tier list. I realize I didn't put any in the dislike category, but let me know if you agree with some of these, if you strongly disagree with any of them, leave it in the comments below. And if you like this style of video, I'm happy to do other muscle groups tier lists as well. I have one for chest exercises already. Maybe I'll do one for legs. So I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like this video, I have one more that I think you'll really enjoy as well. So I'm gonna leave that video up here and I'll catch you over there.